Welcome to the Solar Cycle podcast, powered by Organic Transit, where we explore the future of clean mobility, sustainable cities, and the innovators reshaping how we move through the world. Join host, entrepreneur, and storyteller Justin Starbird as he takes you inside the ideas, technologies, and real-world impact behind the revolutionary ELF, the world's most efficient solar-powered vehicle. Thanks for joining us. Let's start today's cycle.
Welcome back to the Solar Cycle podcast presented by Organic Transit. My name is Justin Starbird, and I get to welcome back Rob Cotter, CEO and founder of Organic Transit. Rob, great to see you, buddy.
Good morning. Good to see you as well. Thanks.
This is becoming old hat for us. This is episode 3. We got to talk a little bit about the comeback story and what you've had to overcome to be here today. Last episode, we talked about the ELF 3.0 and big plans for the next iteration of the ELF coming off the assembly line, if you will, or out the manufacturing door. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about crowdfunding and why you're raising money and how we're going about that. So I'm really excited to get your answers today.
Great.
Thinking about, that this is a comeback story. You've been through, the ringer before. You've raised money and done very well with that previously. It didn't go the way you were hoping, and you've certainly seen some of the downside to traditional fundraising. What led you to think through crowdfunding or even, deciding on which platform to use? There's so many options out there.
So the great thing about crowdfunding is when you take it to the streets, essentially, when you bring it to the retail investors, you create a community of people that are bonded to the same goal. It's there's no question, when they sign up, they're part of this whole team, this family of pushing this environmental vehicle forward. The other part is, if you get some money from some VCs or something, they are, they're a small group, and they've got lots of other investments where in this community, it's a public relations machine. They're out advocating for it. They're out as ambassadors talking about it, promoting it. Thousands of people promoting it that no VC could ever accomplish to get that kind of third-party endorsement. So it's really a tremendous leap forward in investing, particularly in sustainable and equitable projects.
Absolutely. I think it is really neat. Literally, your investors are, owners in the company, and that is really exciting because, to your point, they become evangelists. They get to talk about it. And depending on how much they invest, they may get an ELF out of it as well, huh?
That's right. That's right. I don't know if it's been included yet on the WeFunder page, but when somebody invests $100,000, they get one of the new 3.0 ELFs, which is really going to be a very special edition.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
Well, there are other platforms out there. WeFunder's one of a few. It's obviously one of the largest as well by investment volume, by the crowd, the community. Why choose WeFunder over say another platform?
It seemed like a very community-oriented platform. I think there probably are lots of good ones out there, and perhaps some are more tailored for companies that have already, gotten to a certain level already and things like that. But this is very much a startup-oriented platform with a great community, and I think it really works well for us that we've already produced 850 of them. So it's a startup opportunity with a great legacy of producing super efficient vehicles at pretty low cost, and our manufacturing cost, the cost to get to manufacturing, is fractional of what it is for most other vehicles.
Yeah, I love that you've already created and got 850 out the door. They've been around the world 40 times in the 10 million miles that they've traveled. How do you see that as an opportunity for de-risking an investment from somebody that's evaluating deals?
Well, and first off, obviously we kind of know how to do this. We know how to do it efficiently. We did it on very little investment in our prior iteration. But the important part, I think, to realize is if you took any of the cool projects that are out there, the motorcycles, the scooters, their bicycles, their cars, they're all these different things. If any one of them had already produced 850 vehicles, it would be a different scenario, right?
Yeah.
And that's the advantage we have over many, 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 many advanced vehicles, like, the canoes and all these vehicles that, like, they raised hundreds of millions of dollars and never got to any sort of revenue or production. And
Yeah.
we raised a couple of $1 million and produced hundreds of vehicles. So it really speaks to not only the capability of the team, but the very nature of the technology is really revolves around efficiency, low cost to manufacture.
Sure. And really the other fact of the matter is that you're not worried about demand. People want the ELF. They want the 3.0. So, that hasn't been an issue, but the issue has been having the ability to scale, right? It hasn't been you know, lack of demand. Talk a little bit about the bottleneck and how, just because you built them and they come, there wasn't not necessarily enough profit in there, but it was difficult to scale. Talk a little bit about what your plan is now.
So, we were operating at like 43% margins on the cost of goods. Pretty darn good for a US made product, particularly a vehicle. And we could never build as many as we could sell. So we were surviving off of revenue, which sounds great if you're making donuts or pizza or something like that. But if you want to scale for products that cost, many thousands of dollars, you actually have to have the right kind of investment. And crowdfunding, this equity basis wasn't as available back then. But the way it is now, it's very attractive for our sort of operation. And it's really incredible, the opportunity that exists here to, like some of the bottlenecks we had, of course, people paid up, they waited a couple of months, they got the vehicle. But I believe that now our goal is to be able to finance those customers. So, if somebody had $10,000 in their pocket and say, I want to buy an ELF, and they wait a couple of months, that's a special kind of person that'll pull up with it. If somebody calls up and says, I want an ELF, okay, it's $149.99 per month or whatever the number is, and you'll have it in this week. What color do you want? It's going to roll out the door. I mean, we have about 8,000 people now that would like to get ELFs, and that's based on them like paying up front. If we offer financing, I think we're looking at a real shift in how mobility happens in this country and around the world.
Well, it certainly makes it accessible to all.
Yes, right.
Yeah. So walk through the math a little bit. Talk through an investor that's looking at this. How does that capital allow you to actually switch from, handcrafted to, I don't want to say assembly line because you're not necessarily creating an assembly line, but, you're certainly creating systems and processes to make this as lean as possible. So how does that impact the really the profit margin on every 3.0 that's sold?
Right. So one of the cool things is that it's very low cost to manufacture, to set up the manufacturing. It's depending on how it was set up, because we did it a couple of different ways, but we always did it extremely lean. It was like $5,000 to $8,000 per workstation to set up to build an ELF.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? Like, one mechanical arm could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And
Sure.
but what we're looking at, as opposed to an assembly line, is substructures. And so a substructure for say the electronics comes in, a substructure for the frame comes in, a substructure comes in for the body. And when those three elements come together, the ELF goes together in about 2.5 hours. And that
Wow.
can happen in multiple locations around the country and around the world.
Wow. So you're thinking that you're going to produce them in more than one location?
Probably because, well, not probably, definitely, because first of all, shipping them around the country is really expensive. And when you have a low cost vehicle and it's really expensive to ship it, that's a huge percentage of the cost.
Yeah,
So we want to make it that these vehicles are being assembled in the areas where they're most likely to be um, taken up by the public.
sure. So what do you think the timing is from, say around closing or, capital closing to else rolling off that, sub-assembly line?
So a lot of it depends on the crowd, right? The faster we do our raises, the faster it'll be into production. Um, Again, the way we did it last time was uh, by purchases. People paid for the elves themselves, essentially, and we're not going to do that this time. So we can benefit by the supply chain of buying more in volume and things like that. That said, um, we'll be building, uh, completing, like we have prototypes now of the 3.0, but we'll be building uh, production ready prototypes by the end of this round.
Okay.
And that really sets the stage on like how do we get these sub-assemblies built and come together quickly. Um, so generally, it still goes back to how fast the capital is raised. But I would say, we'll be rolling them out the door in roughly 12 months. Regular folks will be getting else.
That's exciting. Oh, and thinking about that money that they're potentially going to be investing, if say an investor wanted to put in $1,000, let's say, right, to the campaign, of course they get some equity based on your raise terms, but where does that $1,000 go? How do you percentage wise? How do you break it up into deciding where every dollar goes?
Well, about 50% goes immediately into the prototyping. So we have various stages of prototyping. Some are very simple and essential and basic to just tell us how this particular component will operate. And then we have more advanced ones that like, wow, that looks like it just rolled off the assembly line. But about 50% will go into the prototyping. And then um, the rest of it will be split up between salaries, marketing, things like that.
Yeah, the WeFunder platform, sure.
Yeah.
Thinking about first of all, that's a really great to be so transparent about where money and investment's going to go. I think that is an opportunity missed for a lot of startups is sharing progress. And I love the fact that you're so, willing to share like where this is going. I appreciate the fact that you've been through this before and can, clearly articulate what it takes to make this all happen. So I think that's something to level set with the audience and listeners is that's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the most important thing I think is that we want this community to these people to realize they're owners of this company.
Yeah,
Their help making this roll along and be able to create the future that they kind of dream of, that
yeah,
just very equitable and hospitable and environmental ways to get around town. It doesn't have to be so expensive and so many tons of steel. And they get to help make that change.
yeah, that's so cool. So what do you think, looking forward, we are about to go into 2026. You're just getting the round started. What are your milestones that you're looking forward to sharing? Because once the round ends, of course, people want to be able to stay in touch. So, over the next 12 to 18 months, what are the top three things that you're looking for milestones? Is it units? Is it delivered? Units delivered? Is it, dealers? Is it profitability?
Did you say in the next 16 months?
Uh, 12 to 18 months. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yes, deliverables, revenue, all those are factors for us for sure. And the other part is, so, most people are familiar with the ELF. and it's kind of this milestone vehicle. And that is sort of the cornerstone for vehicles we have going up and down the scale.
Yeah.
So we have already prototypes done for smaller vehicles that are just about production ready, that we're not ready to reveal to the public yet, but soon,
Yeah.
soon. And then we have other classes of vehicles that are larger than the ELF or more powerful or higher carrying capacity. And those are milestones as well. So they have the potential to bring in more revenue and address an entirely different market. So, yeah, there's multiple milestones for us to address. And we're really looking to capitalize on the technology of the ELF as it expands through a variety of different types of vehicles for different purposes.
Yeah, that's so cool. Just to think about the the opportunity that's out there. I mean, heck, even on the larger scale side, maybe the last mile delivery and those sorts of things. That's just, I think, there's a space for that. Thinking about the space, though, you're also creating opportunities that I don't think get talked enough about, and that's how you're working with this, folks with disabilities, and it creates opportunities for them to be mobile where they otherwise may not be. Share with us how that sort of came to fruition, because that wasn't something that you necessarily thought of right out of the gate, 12, 14 years ago, but it's become a core component of who you are today.
Yeah, so that evolved all on its own. And clearly, the most vocal and advocate for the ELFs are people in that disabled category. Many, many people, large numbers of people over, say, 65, have some sort of macular degeneration. So they're legally blind.
Yeah,
Although they can see things and walk around, they just can't operate a car at 50 miles an hour. But they could ride a bicycle, but balance might be an issue, seeing what's going on. They want more safety, they want stability. So lots of people that would be considered legally blind use ELFs.
yeah,
A lot of veterans with PTSD or a variety of issues that they all face are using the ELF to get around, to feel better about themselves, to get healthy. And, some of them aren't able to drive anymore, whether it's a physical disability or other stresses that make it impossible. Another category is people with autism. I spoke with someone the other day, and multiple people with autism in this part of the country have ELFs.
yeah,
They're never going to drive a car,
yep,
but they get an ELF. It's like fresh air, people smiling, a lot less stress, low speed. And it really is kind of a human scaled vehicle that makes the riders very, very comfortable,
yeah,
very easy to engage with the environment and to control, and very safe. So um, that disabled community really all evolved on its own. And we have made certain adaptations for certain people's uh, needs. But generally speaking, as it comes out of the box, it's good for a certain amount of people, right?
yeah.
And
I
it's
love the story you tell about the person with epilepsy that had sensors built into the steering mechanism so that it could sense, something coming on. How, what was that like hearing that feedback? If you don't mind sharing that story again.
Yeah, so we were working on um, some autonomous ELFs with a university, and a that technology kind of washed over to other people, other departments in that university. So this one gentleman came down with epilepsy. He was a pretty healthy guy. I don't know exactly what led to it, but all of a sudden he couldn't drive anymore, and his 30-minute car ride turned into a 2.5 hour bus ride, and he couldn't take his therapy dog with him.
Hmm.
So he used some of the technology. So the ELF was tracking both sides of the road on the way into the university and the way back. And they tracked the sides of the road, which now his commute was like, instead of being a half hour car or 2.5 hours into the bus, it was about 45 minutes. So for 45 minutes each way, the elf would track the side of the road. And if he started having a seizure, haptically, it would pick up his hands, the vibration, and it would know, oh, it's a seizure, and it would pull over to a safe spot that it already knew what the terrain was like. It would pull over and stop.
Yeah.
He would have a seizure, come out of it, and then ride away.
Wow.
And that's something you can't do in a car and you can't do on a bicycle.
Yeah.
But somehow this gentleman figured out how to do that. I'm not sure to what extent he's completed that, but that was what he was working on. And the whole time he's got his dog with him too, which is pretty awesome. So.
Oh, absolutely. All right. So, I'll let you get out of here on this because there's so much to be thankful for. And there's so much, that you're putting out there that's inspirational. But, speaking directly to the person that is listening, who's always wanted an elf, but maybe never bought one, why is investing in organic transit, the ELF 3.0, the best way to ensure that the rest of the world can finally have one and micromobility becomes mainstream?
So, one of the things we have to keep coming back on is that according to AAA, it's about $12,000 a year to maintain an automobile.
Yep.
Own and maintain an automobile. And so, as I might have mentioned before, many people in 7 months, 8 months, a year, that elf has already paid for itself. But if we take it for a couple of years and realize, wow, that's $8,000 to $12,000 a year that remains in your pocket, that you can do things in your community or your vacations or your education or your children. That's money that stays in your household as opposed to going out to Exxon and Shell and all that.
Right.
So it's a huge shift. It's a environmental shift, it's a business shift, and it's a health shift.
Yeah, I love you mentioned how do you say it, with the sustainable economy. You're doing something really special here, and I think it's really exciting. So really appreciate you sharing your insight today, talking us through the raise, what you're hoping to get out of it, and all that's to come.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody that's participating, and we really look forward to working with you closely in the future. And thank you so much, everybody, for all you're doing.
Well, you heard it here. The technology is proven, the demand is absolutely real, and the mechanism to scale is open right now. So go over to wefunder.com/organic transit to read the terms, let's see the pitch deck, and decide if you'd like to own a piece of the future of transport. On behalf of my guest today, CEO Rob Carter of Organic Transit, you've been listening to the Solar Cycle Podcast. Until next time.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us on the Solar Cycle, powered by Organic Transit. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and follow our journey as we bring solar-powered mobility to the world. To learn more about Organic Transit and the ELF, or to join our community round on WeFunder, visit organictransit.com.